Second to respond because who is going to be speaking
Representative
next?
Davidson is next.
Oh, may I have just 1 second to respond to that? Obviously, from some of the questions we're hearing from the Democrats, they care more about a lot of other countries than America. And we've seen that in their votes with the money they voted just to spend in Ukraine killing people. Thankfully, we have a president in Donald J. Trump who's going to help bring peace.
Maybe we could have regular order, Mr. Chairman.
What's up, freedom fighters? Welcome back to the channel that defends truth, liberty, and the real American values that DC forgot. Now today, buckle up. We're diving into a hearing that exposed what's really going on at Voice of America. And let me tell you, it's worse than we thought. From woke bias and media corruption to taxpayer waste and outrageous security clearances for non-government employees, this was a bombshell. The deep state media arm is real, and we just got a front row seat to how bad it's gotten. Let's break it down.
Chairman.
Seems pretty regular to me. Representative Davidson is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for having this hearing. Ms. Lake, I want to let you know that Voice of America is just such an important part of Ohio's history. In Westchester, Ohio, we have Voice of America Park, and it recognizes the Voice of America Bethany Relay Station, which served as a key anchor to get the message that Voice of America was broadcasting, whether to Europe or South America, and Crosley Broadcasting's there. So I'd invite you and your team to come to Westchester, Ohio at some point and tour the museum, highlight the history of the Voice of America.
Of Ohio.
I think the values that Voice of America, put into action, really, and made known, America's values, are part of the story of victory in the Cold War. And in Munich earlier this year, Vice President Vance gave a speech expressing his fear that in Europe, these freedoms are under attack. The things that we fought to protect Europe from, we now see, speaking of sanctuary, we have people claiming asylum from the UK, from Germany, and from Poland in Hungary today. Mm-hmm. So they are protecting civil liberties for people that are being put in jail for memes in places like Germany and England. So, looking at widespread censorship online, you look at the values that seem under attack by the, digital regulation in the European Union, Voice of America can still play an important role in the world. So, unfortunately, we've seen our institutions that help defend democracy being wielded in some ways to undermine it, even within various administrations. So I think your reshaping of this institution is incredibly important. Unfortunately, revelations from Voice of America show the U.S. is not immune from actions to shape speech. A new Iron Curtain is falling over the West under the guise of censorship. If you have unapproved views on migration, vaccines, or election results, or any number of things, your freedoms can be taken away because the woke religion has its own heresy code. People are seeking to use components of our own government to enforce their political ideology. So, Ms. Lake, can you expand further on the bias which has USA GM has operated over the years?
I would love to. Actually, I wish I didn't have to. I wish that I could report to you that there was no bias, but there's been a lot of bias, and I've got just a few headlines here. This one says, Voice of America slants news, delays Biden's debate stumble story. Voice of America election news went from 1996 to 2020, went from balance to bias. Will Voice of America campaign video that they ran for Biden help him win Michigan? Why is Voice of America getting involved in politics? How about this one? Voice of America director Amanda Bennett resigned amid accusations of failing to stop China and Iran propaganda in VOA programs. And guess what? She was then hired back by Joe Biden to run the agency and nearly ran it into the ground. She's the one responsible for a $250 million 15-year lease in a swanky high-rise that they were going to put VOA in had I not stopped it. And this high-rise isn't even equipped to do broadcasting. That was going to cost the American taxpayer another $100 million at least. When are we going to start putting the American people first?
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that. America's resources should advance America's interest, and thanks for being a good custodian of that. Reading in background for this, I was stunned to find that Voice of America's former associate editor for news standards, Carol Grunsberg, directed staff to, quote, avoid calling Hamas and its members terrorists, in quotes. Why do you think Voice of America was hesitant to call Hamas and its members terrorists?
Because, you know, as I've mentioned, there's a true bias going on. They're pushing an agenda, and they, in many cases, are opposed to whatever the policy of America is. And they have completely gone off the rails, and we need to get them back on the rails. And that's what we're doing. We're reducing the size of this. And in many ways, maybe the people reporting were actually okay with a terrorist attack like that.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting the concern on security risks. I mean, in your testimony, you discuss how many individuals have granted access to secure government facilities or IT systems via false Social Security numbers or other false credentials. It's especially disorienting to hear about large numbers of staff receiving clearances and access to sensitive material when House of Representatives can't even get clearances for some of our staff members. What steps are you taking to clean up the clearance rosters?
Well, right now we have a director of security who's doing an incredible job trying to clean up the mess. And one of the things we're doing is reducing the number of people who have security clearances. I think one of the members said, why does a reporter need a security clearance? I think it was the chairman who said that. And we went through and we are starting to weed out and pare down that list. We took all of the presidents of the various grantees. Those are not government employees. They all had top secret clearances, and we revoked that, and they cried like crazy when we did it, but there's no reason to have that. RFA, Radio Free Asia, asked our security director if we would build a SCIF in their facility. Why on earth would they need a SCIF? So
Yeah.
we're doing everything we can to try to get things back under control, but I think President Trump has the right idea. We need to eliminate this agency, find what's salvageable, and move it over to the Department of State.
Thank you so much for that clarity. And, you know, certainly we're not going to broadcast
Gentleman's
classified
time has
information.
expired.
So thank you for safeguarding it.
Chair now recognizes Representative Volcheski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to
Voice of America, a tool of the people or the party, 1 o'clock. Voice of America, once a proud Cold War symbol of truth and freedom, has apparently turned into a leftist propaganda machine, pushing political agendas and censorship. And the hearing today made that painfully clear. Rep. Davidson kicked it off by reminding us how VOA helped win the Cold War by broadcasting America's values. But now, it's promoting the very authoritarian garbage we once fought against. Let this sink in. People are fleeing Western countries like Germany and England because of censorship, being jailed for memes. And what are we doing? Instead of fighting for free speech, Voice of America is jumping right on board the global censorship train. We've got a new Iron Curtain falling, not in Russia, but over the West. And guess what? The woke mob wrote the script. Then it gets worse. Miss Lake, the witness, dropped bombshells. She brought headline after headline, proving VOA delayed stories that made Biden look bad, like his debate meltdown. They even aired campaign-style content to help him win Michigan. That's taxpayer-funded propaganda, folks. And who was running it? Amanda Bennett, someone who let Chinese and Iranian propaganda seep into VOA broadcasts. Biden rehired her. Unbelievable. Bennett also signed off on a $250 million lease in a high-rise that couldn't even handle broadcasting. Another $100 million was expected just to make it usable. That's your money being flushed so the swamp can live large. Thankfully, Miss Lake stopped it. That alone saved us over $100 million. Imagine how many roads, schools, or border walls that money could have gone to. Here's the most infuriating part. VOA's former associate editor reportedly told staff to avoid calling Hamas terrorists. Are you kidding me? This is an organization that kills civilians, uses human shields, and brags about attacking Israelis. But the woke editors at VOA don't want to offend them? Absolute disgrace. Now let's talk about national security. Turns out VOA was handing out top-secret clearances like candy to people who aren't even government employees. Presidents of outside grantee organizations who had no business with classified info were walking around with high-level clearance. Miss Lake revoked them, and guess what? They cried, Yeah, the elites get mad when their power is threatened. Too bad. Ms. Lake is trying to clean up this corrupt agency, cut staff, revoke access, and return to real journalism. She even said what we've all been thinking. President Trump had the right idea. Eliminate the agency, salvage what's useful, and move it under the Department of State. It's time to stop funding biased, bloated institutions that hate the country they're supposed to represent. Let's not ignore what was said at the very start. Democrats were more concerned about Ukraine than America. That says it all. They'll vote to send billions overseas but won't secure our southern border or protect our energy independence. Enough. Today's hearing showed what happens when patriots start demanding answers. The swamp squeals, but we're not backing down. Leaders like Ms. Lake are stepping up, exposing corruption and taking real action. The America First agenda is about common sense, fairness, and accountability, and it's long overdue in our media institutions. If you're as fired up as I am, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with every red-blooded American who's had enough of media lies and government waste. The battle for truth isn't just in the headlines, it's in the halls of Congress, the newsrooms, and every agency like VOA that thinks you're too dumb to think for yourself. We're here to say no more. God bless you, God bless President Trump, and God bless the United States of America.